Hello, my friends. Welcome to another video. Today is going to be my October reading wrap up. So I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in October. But I am filming this on Halloween. So happy Halloween. If you're watching this, Halloween has probably already passed. I hope y'all had a good Halloween if you do celebrate. Tonight, Jacob and I are just going to be watching scary movies. We actually don't get a lot of trick-or-treaters here in our neighborhood, so we don't give out candy or anything like that. So we usually just like stay in, cook dinner, watch scary movies, and just have like a very chill and cozy day. So that is what we're doing today. But anyway, October was actually a pretty slow reading month for me compared to other months. Usually I read like 7 or so books a month, and in October I read 4. We just had a lot going on this month, like not only with work, like work was so busy for me this month, also very busy for Jacob, but it's just been a very busy work month. And then on top of that, we had a lot going on like socially. It was my mom's birthday, it was Jacob and I's 9th wedding anniversary, and then we also had some friends come in town from California and stay with us for a few days. And so with all of that going on, I really just did not read that much. But you know what? That is okay. I'm still very proud of the 4 books that I read this month. So let's get into them. So I won't be doing any spoilers. I will just be generally talking about the books and then giving you my rating and overall just what I thought about them. The first book that I read this month was Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. I don't know why this feels like I read this forever ago. Like it feels like I read this a few months ago. But then when I looked over like the books I read this month, I actually read this at the beginning of this month, which is wild because I feel like October just flew by and it feels like I read this a long time ago. It's very weird. I don't know. But if you are interested, I have a whole entire reading vlog of me reading this book. So if you want to see my like real-time reactions while I'm reading this, I will link that reading vlog down below. But I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this. Just a quick synopsis of this book. This is a college football romance. I was going to say rom-com because there are like, sometimes the writing is kind of rom-com-y, but I would say this is a semi-spicy college football romance. Yes. This book is about Ariana, who is on her way to college, and she has a group of friends who are very close. So they are just like family. And the guys in her group are football players. So they are all going to the same college. The guys will be playing football, and then her and her best friend are very close. And they're all just kind of like a very tight-knit group of friends. This book starts out the summer before they go off to college, and they're going to this beach house to have like a last hurrah. They're gonna have a party and just sort of celebrate their last summer before going off to college. Now, there is a guy in the group that Ariana is very into, and she's pretty much been into him like for a really long time. But their group of friends is just so tight-knit that she hasn't really expressed her feelings because she doesn't want to ruin the friendship. She doesn't want to create a rift or any kind of drama within the friends group. Now, I don't want to say too much about the characters or the dynamic within the characters because I don't want to spoil anything. So I will keep it at that. What I will say though is that something happens between them that really alters the course of their relationship and their friendship. This book is about her journey through that. That's all I will say because I think this is a really good book to go into kind of blind. I went into this not really knowing what this was about other than it was about football. It was a romance and it was set in a college. Other than that, I didn't know anything, and I loved not really knowing too much about it. I had a really good experience reading it. I will say though, the reason why I didn't give it 5 stars is because the first part of this book, a little bit messy. It was a little bit all over the place. The writing was, I don't know, messy is the only word. I was like having a hard time following all of the characters. The author brings in some characters at the beginning of this book that I was trying to keep track of. And then you realize that those characters don't even really play a role in the story. So I feel like I wasted a lot of my time trying to figure out who all of these like side characters were. And then they really didn't even play like a big part in the story. I don't know. I feel like at first I was a little bit lost, like trying to keep track of everyone and trying to keep track of what was going on. It just felt very choppy. After they go to college, that is when this book really picks up, and I was hooked and I could not stop reading this. I really loved all the relationships. I felt very connected to the characters. There is one character in here that I just fell in love with, like fell in love. This is a very sweet story. I actually cried in this book. If you know me or if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that it takes a lot to make me cry in a book, and this one did get me. There is a relationship in here that just like hit really close to home for me, and it just really affected me. The story has so much depth and so much meaning, and this is not just your like fluffy surface level romance. It has a lot of depth. The characters have a lot of development. It was just really, really good. I also really loved the college football setting of this, because in here they're like going to games and they're going to parties and they're doing tailgating. This also is a little bit spicy. I wouldn't say it is like a super spicy book. I mean, I guess maybe to some people it is, but compared to the books that I have read, I would say that the spice in this is very mild. So yeah, this was a 4.5 stars for me. I really loved this. Next book I read in October was How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. This was our October book club pick in my book club. This is technically a horror book, but I would consider this more like lighthearted horror. Grady Hendrix is his writing is very quirky and different. It's very unique. If you have never read a Grady Hendrix book before, I would highly recommend his books, although I will say I don't think that they are for everyone. They're just not your typical horror books. Like when you think of horror, you think of dark and super scary, graphic and gory. And while there are some graphic scenes, I feel like he has this way of putting a little bit of a humor undertone into his writing and just makes his books so fun. And you wouldn't think of the word fun when you're thinking of a horror book, but truly that is what his books are. They are just a really fun time. This book is about Louise and her brother Mark. Their parents end up passing away, and they are basically trying to clean out their parents' house and sell it. Now, when they go to the home to start cleaning out the house, some very weird things start happening in this home, and the things inside this house have a very different plan for them. What I will say is that their mom has a very large collection of dolls and puppets. That's all I will say about that. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. This book has some very creepy scenes. I will say that. There were some scenes that creeped me out, but at the same time, while I was creeped out, I was also like laughing. It's so hard to explain unless you have read a Grady Hendrix book, but he is just like the master of creeping you out, but also making you laugh at the same time. So I would highly recommend this if you have not given Grady Hendrix books a chance. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was a solid 4 stars for me. The next book I read in October was Wildfire by Hannah Grace. I also have a reading vlog on this book. So again, if you want to see my reactions as I'm reading this, I will link that reading vlog down below. But this is the companion novel, or the second book right after Icebreaker. And I gave Icebreaker 3.75 stars, I believe. I read it a couple of months ago. I didn't love Icebreaker, but I liked it enough to where I wanted to read the second book. There were some things I really loved about it. Like, it was a fun read, but I wasn't absolutely obsessed with it like so many people are. Like, it was an okay book for me, but I liked it enough to where I was like, okay, I want to read the other book because I know it's going to be a different setting. I know there's going to be different characters. So I read Wildfire, and I ended up giving this 3 stars. This book is about Russ and Aurora. Long story short, Russ and Aurora meet at a party. They immediately hit it off and they have a one-night stand. Something very awkward happens between them and they kind of go their separate ways. And the next day, Russ and Aurora end up seeing each other at a summer camp that they are both going to be camp counselors at. And they did not know that they were both going to be counselors at this summer camp. So they see each other and they're like, what are you doing here? So this book is basically their story. It takes you through everything that happens after that initial meeting at the summer camp, and 90% of this book is set at the summer camp. Now, some of the things that I really loved about this book is I did really like the summer camp setting. Even though I am very much in a fall mood right now, I was not in the mood to read something summery, but I just really wanted to read it because I wanted to review it as soon as possible because this book recently just came out. I'm very confused why this had a fall release because this book is absolutely a summer read. I think this would be a really cute book to just like read on the beach or read anytime during the summer. And nonetheless, even though I'm very much in a fall mood, I still really liked the summer camp setting of this. The first 100 pages of this book were so good. Like, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a 5-star read for me. Like, I'm already liking this more than Icebreaker. I loved the way that Russ and Aurora met. There was so much tension and angst and their banter was so good. I just like really, really enjoyed the first 100 pages. And then after that, it kind of just like went downhill for me. It was like up here and then it went down, and then it just, I will say that I did love their banter. Like, there are some funny parts in this book where I found myself laughing out loud, and I really enjoyed the banter between the characters. I also really loved that some of the side characters from Icebreaker are also in this book, but they're not in this book as much as I expected them to be, because there was a lot of characters in Icebreaker that I really loved, and then you don't really see them too much in here, but there are new characters that are introduced. There's like other camp counselors and stuff that they meet at the camp. I really liked the side characters, but I do wish that there was more of the characters from Icebreaker in this one. But honestly, I was just like, after the first 100 pages, I was just kind of bored. A lot of the scenes in this book are them like playing summer camp activities, playing basketball, playing games on the lake. Like, I don't know. I was just like, okay, can we move on and get back to the main plot and the main storyline? Like, I want more conflict. I want more depth. I want more drama. I just want like more going on. And this was just it just fell flat for me. There's also some side stories, like some subplots that are happening in this that I just honestly didn't really care about. Like, I understand that books obviously have subplots, and I appreciate that Hannah Grace tries to work in some real life issues and real life problems that real people really have, but I feel like she stays on those topics for too long, and at that point I'm like, okay, we need to get back to Russ and Aurora. Let's get back to their relationship and their banter and their angst and their like build up, you know? There's a character though in Icebreaker, Henry, who I absolutely loved. And if she comes out with a book about Henry, I will for sure be reading that book because I love his character so much. And I just like, I want his story. So if she comes out with a third book and it's about Henry, I'm reading it. All right, and then the last book that I read in October is Feeders by Caleb Stevens. This is a horror book. Essentially, this book is about Bryn, who works as a tattoo artist, and she's kind of going through some tough times in life. One night, she gets abducted by her father, and her father is basically forcing her to take a road trip because he is on a mission to save her from the monsters that he thinks are about to kill off the entire human race. And he calls them feeders. Now, Bryn's father is someone who has basically told her entire life that these monsters are basically coming to attack them and they could come any day now. But she just thinks her dad's crazy. She thinks he's nuts and she doesn't believe anything he says. But then she's abducted by him and taken on this road trip, and she's in for a very rude awakening. Now, while they're on this road trip, her father is like, look, I'm taking you to this shelter that I built a long time ago because this is the only thing that's going to save us from these monsters, from these feeders. And the way that these feeders are described in this book are like big, like roach-like creatures, and they have drills, and they basically like drill in and out of the earth. This book reminds me a lot of The Walking Dead, but remove the zombies and replace the zombies with the feeders. If you like the show The Walking Dead, I would 1,000,000% recommend that you read this book. I think you would really enjoy it. But this book takes you along on their road trip and all the craziness that happens while they are on it. I absolutely loved this book. I give it 5 stars, easy. I'm a big fan of Caleb Stevens. He is an independent author, and I read one of his other books recently called The Girls in the Cabin, which if you follow me on my Instagram or you've watched any of my other videos, you have heard me talk about that book before, but it is one of my favorite psychological thrillers ever. I love that book so much, and this is one of his most recent releases. His writing is so descriptive. It just paints this vivid, super vivid picture in my mind of what is happening, and I feel like I'm there. Like, I feel like I'm living through what the characters are going through. But again, he is an independent author, and I'm just so happy to support his work and to share his work, because that is one of the most important things you can do for an independent author is read their books and share it with people. And I'm just so happy to be sharing his books. So if you are a lover of horror, or if you like shows like The Walking Dead, I would absolutely read this book. I'll link these books on my Amazon bookstore. I'll link them down in the description below if you want to check them out. All right, y'all. So those were the 4 books that I read in October. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you have read any of these books, I would love to know what your thoughts are in the comments. And if you haven't read them, Let me know if you have decided to put any of these on your TBR based on my review. But thank y'all so much for watching. I will put all of my social handles here on the screen. I have a book talk, I have a bookstagram, and then I have my main Instagram as well. So I would love to have y'all come follow along over there also. Again, thank y'all so much for watching, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye!